Hi everyone, this is meteorologist Brian Bennett. As you know, we have a lot going on weather-wise. We have Tropical Storm Harvey that has absolutely drenched southeastern Texas, resulting in catastrophic flooding, especially around the Houston and Galveston area. We also have potential tropical cyclone 10. This just basically means that the National Hurricane Center thinks the storm could become a tropical storm as it moves off to the northeast. And we have a tropical wave that is off the coast of Africa and is moving off to the west northwest. And as it does so, could become a tropical storm or even a hurricane. Of course, Harvey has been the big news recently. Some of the pictures coming out of Houston and parts of southeastern Texas are pretty tragic and horrific in regards to the amount of freshwater flooding that has fallen. We're looking at rain totals so far between 30 and 40 inches of rain, and before the storm is done with southeastern Texas, it could drop upwards of 40 to 50 inches of rain, which would be equivalent to the amount of rain that that area would see in an entire year, and they've picked it up in a couple of days. So I think the message has gotten across that Harvey is not a storm to mess around with, and it has dropped a ton of rain, but there is a light on the horizon, especially for the Houston area, so that they can start to rebuild and clean up the mess that Harvey has caused. In fact, the center of circulation has moved back offshore, so that's not good news. It's allowing it to continue to pump in more moisture, but a slow easterly progression is going to begin and then eventually northeastward, which will bring drier weather into Houston, and it'll make it a bit more wet for Louisiana, Missouri, Arkansas, Illinois, Indiana, and Tennessee as the storm diminishes and continues to move off to the northeast. Here's the path for that potential tropical cyclone that developed off the Georgia Bight. It's going to scrape the Carolinas and potentially become a tropical storm, and then pretty much be a storm for the fishes, jetting across the Atlantic Ocean, and then maybe in about 10 days or so, we'll see a few headlines about probably some blustery weather and some heavy rain occurring over in England as this storm continues to make its way eastward. Here's a little map, maybe a little confusing to you. It's the current surface map. Basically, we have low pressure here. This is Harvey. We have a stalled frontal boundary all the way up through the Carolinas. We have a low pressure system just off the shore of Tampa Bay, another low pressure system, which is that potential tropical cyclone off the Georgia Bight. These two lows right across Florida and this trough of low pressure are helping to contribute to the heavy rain that Central Florida and Tampa Bay have picked up over the last couple of days. How much rain has Harvey dropped? In fact, check this out. Harvey has dropped so much rain that the National Weather Service has actually had to update and increase the maximum amount of rain that their graphics could show. In fact, the Houston area has picked up around 33 inches of rain over the last couple of days. So the National Weather Service had to update their map because they never needed to show this great of rainfall totals. But you can see right around the Houston area, right around 33 to 35 inches of rain has fallen. That is a ton of rain, and that's all due to Harvey, of course. And Harvey is being blocked by high pressures to the west, to the north, to the east, basically a bunch of bullies forcing the storm to remain over this exact location. This is somewhat of a perfect storm, if you want to call it that, although it's very unperfect in regards to how much rain that it's dropping. But that's the reason it hasn't really moved anywhere, is because high pressure is blocking it. But things will gradually start to change over the next couple of days. Looking at the surface winds, you can see the winds rotating around Harvey in that counterclockwise direction. Also, you can see that potential tropical cyclone off the Georgia Bight. It is starting to get its act together a little bit more, and that's why we're seeing the winds kind of circulate right around the Charleston, South Carolina area. All right, here's a look at rainfall totals for the Tampa Bay and Fort Myers and Cape Coral area. And Harvey has kind of stolen the headlines this week as far as heavy rain goes, but check this out. Northern Sarasota over the last couple of days has picked up upwards of, I'd say, about 14 inches of rain. In fact, let me go ahead and take this back 5 days ago. And the pink color here represents 14 to 15 inches of rain. So northern Sarasota, Cape Coral, parts of Sanibel Island, Captiva, all picking up greater than 14 inches of rain. So a ton of rain falling across parts of South Central and coastal Tampa Bay and down into parts of Port Charlotte and Fort Myers as well. And we'll see some of that rain lighten up a little bit over the coming days. All right, here's Harvey on the radar picture. You can see the storm still continuing to spiral and bring heavy rain to parts of southeastern Texas and Louisiana. There's that trough of low pressure bringing a rain train basically into the Tampa Bay area. And here's that developing potential tropical cyclone off the Georgia Bight. A closer look at the radar picture in Houston shows that it's not nearly as ominous as it was a couple of days ago, but we're still seeing some moderate rain over very saturated and flooded areas of Houston and even down into the Galveston area as well. But not too much longer, and we'll be able to tap into the drier air that's right now in central Texas. Here's a look at Florida. Again, Harvey has kind of stolen the headlines this week with the heavy rain, but Florida's seen a lot of heavy rain too. Like I mentioned, 14 inches of rain right around the Sarasota area, and throughout this evening we'll continue to see that rain train just kind of continue to bring moisture in off the Gulf of Mexico, which is leading to some minor street flooding. Nothing horrific like we're seeing in Harvey, but some minor flooding in some backyards and streets occurring around parts of the Tampa Bay area and down to Fort Myers as well. All right, so the big question is, what is ahead? Here is the RPM Futurecast over the next 3 days, and here's Texas, here's Florida, and as you can see, Harvey slowly moves northeast, and here's that tropical cyclone trying to get its act together. It could become our next tropical cyclone, but fortunately, once it leaves the Carolinas behind, it's going to move out into the Atlantic and be a storm for the fishes, but Harvey slowly moves off to the north-northeast, and will gradually weaken, but still could produce some more flooding as it continues to move to the northeast over the next couple of days. All right, here's a closer look. Here's Houston right here. That's Houston. And notice how close the rain is to coming to an end. So let's go ahead and fast forward this a little bit. And the heavy rain continues for southeastern Texas throughout the nighttime hours and into the early hours of tomorrow. But notice what happens right here. Let's see what time this is on the timestamp. This is 2Z on the 30th. So this is tomorrow evening. The rain finally comes to an end for Houston. So tomorrow afternoon, tomorrow evening, we'll see the rain come to an end for Houston, and then the cleanup can begin. But we do notice that some of the heavy rain starts to move into western Louisiana, which has picked up some pretty decent rain totals as well. Storm system moves off to the north into parts of Missouri, which could result in some flash flooding, perhaps, but nothing in Louisiana, nothing in Missouri and Arkansas, or even up through western Tennessee will compare to what we've seen with Harvey. But nonetheless, maybe some quick flash flooding, and again in Louisiana, Missouri, Mississippi, and maybe even as far east as the Florida Panhandle. But again, tomorrow evening, though, Harvey is history for Houston, and the cleanup can finally begin. All right, what about Florida and all this heavy rain that's been falling across Tampa Bay? Let's go into the future with this storm. And you'll see that overnight tonight, the rain gradually tapers off. We'll still have some sprinkles and drizzle and some light showers around overnight. And then tomorrow morning, same thing goes. By tomorrow afternoon, we're seeing a few scattered showers and storms, but not nearly the heavy rain that we experienced throughout much of the day today. And then really not too much as you head into Wednesday either, kind of sandwiched between what's happening with Harvey and that potential tropical cyclone. So a bit more of a summer-like pattern for Florida as we move into later Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday. So today was kind of the rainy day for Florida, but that will be moving out overnight tonight. All right, how much more rain is going to fall due to Harvey, due to that trough of low pressure over Florida, and due to the potential tropical cyclone? This map looks kind of hypnotic, I know, but this shows you how much rain is going to fall. And you can see the little legend over here. This shows you that anything that turns into the white color here means more than 16 inches of rain. So from basically right now to over the next 3 days, wherever you see the white color, that represents over 16 inches of rain. So southeast of Houston and to parts of the Louisiana-Texas border, we're going to see potentially 16 inches of rain or greater. You'll see up through Louisiana, we're going to see some very, very heavy rain. Southern Missouri, very heavy rain. Also coastal Louisiana down through New Orleans, and also over towards Mobile, and even very western Panhandle, picking up possibly 8 to 10 inches of rain. The heavy rain for the Tampa Bay area has pretty much fallen throughout the day today and will continue to kind of wind down over the night tonight. So really we'll see the flash flooding threat for much of the Tampa Bay area down through Fort Myers come to an end later tonight. That potential tropical cyclone, though, is going to drop some hefty rainfall totals from basically Charleston all the way up through Cape Hatteras. The purple color here represents anywhere from 6 to 10 inches of rain in this area, so possibly some flash flooding over the next 3 days from that potential tropical cyclone. All right, so let's take a look at the spaghetti plots for Harvey. Again, that was the RPM model we were looking at, and all the other models here seem to agree that Harvey is going to move back to the north, dump some heavy rain in Louisiana, and then diminish and move off to the northeast, and finally being history, and again allowing the folks in Houston to clean up behind this storm. Here's a look at the spaghetti model intensity possibilities. And the green is a tropical storm. Beneath green is just a tropical depression or less. And you can see the storm will continue to weaken. So folks in Louisiana and Mississippi and Arkansas and Missouri don't need to worry about this storm maintaining its tropical storm status. It is going to weaken into a tropical depression or even a subtropical storm of some sort as it loses its tropical characteristics. Here's that potential tropical cyclone that has developed off the Carolina coast. Just about every model agrees that the storm goes off to the northeast. This is great news. We don't want to see this storm curve back to the northwest and become a Hurricane Sandy type of storm that moves into New Jersey and New York. Fortunately, there are no indications that's going to happen. Every model is taking the storm off to the northeast. And again, maybe in a week we'll hear some headlines from England saying that we're looking at some heavy rain way across the pond and England and Scotland in that area. But fortunately, this storm will largely be a storm for the fishes, other than some initial heavy rainfall in the Carolinas and maybe a minor storm surge flooding for North Carolina as we move into the day tomorrow on Tuesday. The storm could become a tropical storm. You see all the models here predicting a bit of an intensity increase over the next 24 hours. So we could see a tropical storm as it scrapes the coast of the Carolinas, but it doesn't look like it's going to become a hurricane right now. It could become close to a hurricane, but nonetheless, mainly staying around tropical storm force winds. The other storm we're watching is this kind of a disorganized area of showers and storms that has rolled off the coast of Africa. The models have picked up on this storm system, and right now the models are saying that storm system is going to move off to the west northwest, and a pretty good model agreement that it's going to move in that direction. And then what happens as it gets farther out is a lot of uncertainty. Will it go closer to Puerto Rico, or will it go much farther north and heads more towards Bermuda, or take a more westerly track towards the United States? That's something we'll have to continue to watch over the next 10 days or so. The models are in fairly good agreement, though, that the storm will rapidly increase in intensity. Again, this is the storm that's off the coast of Africa, but you can see that the models want to increase it to a tropical storm and potentially even a hurricane as we move into the next couple of days and it slowly develops. So let's take a look at the long-range models. Here's a look at the GFS model, and you can see this potential tropical storm or hurricane that's right now off the coast of Africa. This is where the GFS, the American model, is forecasting it to be in 10 days. And then long range out, you can see that the GFS wants to take the storm, pretty powerful storm actually, to the north, a little too close to the coast for comfort, but right now the GFS has it staying offshore. But again, that's nearly 16 days out. The European model, which has done really well this season with predicting the positioning and intensity of these storms, has this potential hurricane or tropical storm basically northeast of Puerto Rico in 10 days. This is September 6th, moving into September 7th. This would be the positioning of this potential storm. So as you can see, it gets kind of in the zone of something we'll really need to watch as it moves westward, but still a long, long way off. Just something we'll continue to watch. In the meantime, let's let the folks from Harvey dry out once we move into tomorrow evening. The folks in the Carolinas will have some pretty hefty rain as we move into the next 24 hours or so. Florida will start to dry out over the next, I would say, 12 hours. Basically overnight tonight, we'll start to see the weather pattern return to a more classic Florida summertime pattern. And then we'll just have to watch this storm as it develops off the coast of Africa and moves westward to see if that's something that we need to pay closer attention to. All right, guys, that's a pretty thorough look at what's going on around the nation and around the world as far as the tropics go. If you have any questions, feel free to zip me a line. As always, hope you have a great and safe evening.